I 24 met a girl 22F in a community college class when I was 20. We came from very different backgrounds. I was middle class trying to find a cheaper way to go to college. She was living in almost poverty going to school because she was forced to by her parents who were threatening to kick her out. She dropped out about a year into her schooling while I continued and finished. During her first year we formed a relationship and she moved into my apartment more or less. Her relationship with her parents is pretty much non-existent and she has little to no outside friends besides one or two women she knew from high school, who are deadbeats in my opinion. I make around $80K a year so we live relatively comfortably, but there's still some strain on finances. I can't exactly say when I started losing feelings, but the fact that she refuses to work, will not cook and wants to eat out every day, does not want to go to school, and continuously wants to buy and spend money on clothes and other stuff just slowly started grating me more and more. I work in a female-dominated workplace, and having conversations, and interacting with coworkers who have so much going for them, have fun hobbies, and aspirations makes it all the more worse when your girlfriend is chronically online and spends 7 hours a day scrolling through Instagram or TikTok reels and thinks having sex is all she needs to do on her end. Our relationship isn't bad, we have fights every now and then like an average couple, have an active sex life, but that's pretty much it. From her perspective if I broke up with her it would be out of nowhere, but I'm pretty much done, and know I could move on quickly and have nothing to be regretful about as shitty as it sounds. The problem comes in her having no job, no finances, almost no friends, and no family support unit. I'm not a monster. I don't want to make someone virtually homeless, but I don't want to be stuck with someone who has nothing going for them either. I don't know what to do. Update 1. When I made that post I was having an extremely bad day and didn't expect it to blow up like it did, so I don't think I was able to give her a fair defense. Also I got dozens of messages, ranging from asking me to hand out her contact info so they could take her in as a live-in sex girlfriend, to helpful advice telling me to start hiding anything valuable. When I had said that she had come from poverty, her father is a laborer while her mother also lives a similar lifestyle to how she lives now. Their home is maybe 1,100 square feet and in a terrible place in town, and given her father's past ultimatum, I don't think he will take her back as she hasn't been back home in years. Yes, I have talked to her about this, since January maybe 3 times. Either by gently telling her it would be nice if she went out more to find a hobby at the very least to flat out saying she was wasting away on her phone and that she needs to get a job or go back to school. Each time she either changed the subject, makes it a joke, or follows through for a couple of days before going back to her usual self. She is a kind partner, who asks me about my day, always tries to make me laugh or lighten the mood when I get annoyed, and generally shows a lot of affection. Which makes me feel terrible when none of that works anymore, and I just see her as another person. Now for the confrontation. Last night when we were both getting ready for bed, I didn't take my clothes off and instead just stood there telling her we needed to talk. At first she was just smiling and jumping up and down on the bed with her knees thinking I wasn't as serious as I was, but eventually she was able to read the mood. I told her something wasn't feeling right anymore, that I've tried to make this work and be patient with her for the past few years, but I didn't know how much more time I was willing to spend waiting for her to get a job, go back to school, or just get a hobby if anything. I told her that it annoyed and grated me that she just didn't seem to care about herself, and that I hated she had no goals or aspirations. This was probably the first time in a long time she was as attentive as she's ever been during this conversation, and agreed to whatever I was saying, even also giving suggestions on where she can apply, what courses were starting to interest her, and even said I could look over her as she submitted applications online to make sure she wasn't lying. In her head it seemed like I was still willing to make this work, and a part of me believed this would finally be the moment that she would change. So it made the next part even harder for me and for her. At her first I told her I didn't love her the same way, which slowly but eventually led to me saying I didn't feel anything at all about this relationship and was jaded. I was tired and wanted a fresh start with someone who was more goal-oriented, and wanted something more out of life. When she realized what I was getting at, she started to cry and asked why I didn't mention this sooner, and I said I've always asked her to cook, to go out with me to try something out, or to just go back to school, even when I offered to pay for her classes. Anything. She said she understands that part, but was upset why I didn't say it was leading to me losing interest in her, because from her perspective it seemed as if I still loved her all the same. She started apologizing, saying she wasn't in the right mental state and saying nothing was motivating her, and she genuinely had no interest in any hobbies. The only thing she liked was spending time with me, which is all she looked forward to in the day when I came home. None of this was really affecting my emotions besides making me feel uncomfortable, so I tried to continue by saying, I think her lifestyle would be better with another person, but she immediately cut me off and became more panicked. She started to apologize again for what she's done and said she would be a better girlfriend, that she would go with me tomorrow to wherever I wanted to go, and would look for courses in August that she could start doing. But she did not want to lose me since she had nothing else in life, and absolutely hated that I stopped loving her. There were so much tears and snot that I said we would have this conversation again when she calmed down, and we eventually did in an hour or so. She pleaded to give her 2 months to make a change and give her another chance, and promised that she would change. Again she listed off all the places she would apply to and said she would be a better partner. I never wanted to make her homeless, so this seemed like a good settlement, even though I still had my doubts. I then reaffirmed that I wanted to see other people, but she seemed much more adamant on this issue than the aspirations issue that she would be able to fix this. She said just give her a month to try and make the relationship work, and asked me again and again on what she could do to make her love her again, and that she didn't want me to hate her. She said that this was the worst part of it all, in the only person that she had just being done. It seemed as if she was about to break down again, so I said okay, we'll see how this relationship is in a month. In my mind, if I'm allowing her 2 months to get back on her feet, then by a month she would already be ready to move on. I also didn't want her to suffer a complete mental breakdown while I was still living her, so giving her a month to let her fix the relationship would give her enough time to accept things. I slept on the couch last night, and will probably continue doing so for a while. She came out at about 3 a.m. wanting to talk some more, but I said I was exhausted and we would do it tomorrow. She then slept on the floor beside me for the rest of the night, apologizing again. When I told her to stop, she silently said okay and sobbed for a bit under her blanket. Update 2. I want everyone who has private messaged me to know I read them all, especially those of you who have gone through similar circumstances as me and have shared your stories. I've been doing some self-reflecting and think I know how I want to go about this that will help with my lack of communication skills. I know I'm not a perfect person, but I still stand by my decisions I made that night 100% through and through. I might post an update sooner in a week or so, as the day after our fight am filled with a bit more hope than usual. Don't know how long it will last, but better make use of it. But again, just wanted to post this for everyone sharing your stories with me privately, as I can't message you all, as it's been helping me make decisions on what to do about this all immensely. Hello, I have a partner who wants to start taking an interest in baking. She's a bit self-conscious and doesn't like asking or looking for outside help, and I'm kind of clueless in the subject, but I want to be able to find a resource to give some help for update 3. After the night confrontation, we didn't really speak all too much at home, with it being dry and awkward for a day or two, but I have been told I'm a workaholic by nature, so it was easy for me to stay at the hospital as a distraction. But in that time she did start to cook again. We weren't in the mood to go out to eat together. Eventually though, I sat down with her after she asked for a more thorough conversation on why I felt our relationship was failing. She promised not to cry or get upset, but wanted me to be 100% upfront so she had a better way of understanding, stating she wanted to try everything to fix this. I was really apprehensive about this, and I can't really explain why, but given being together for 4 years, I wanted to at least make an effort myself out of respect, even though a large part of me was angry for even doing so, as I feel I've never had the same from her. There have been many different camps in my last update, the main ones being kick her out immediately and leave her before it gets worse, try to find a way to fix our relationship, or end the relationship altogether but continue living with someone who would probably become absolutely neurotic. If I was going to let her stay for 2 months, I would absolutely not be dealing with that. I took consideration in all these main advice discussions and read through almost every reply. Even the most assumptive, bizarre and downright unhinged Redditor takes. More importantly, I took heavy influence of those who have shared with me their past stories, which either led to them being stuck in loveless relationships for years or eventually being able to overcome their problems and have an even stronger connection. Thank you again for your private messages. I read through a lot of your lives. Now for our conversation. She said she saw something on TikTok where couples put a phone on a table with a timer and wanted to do something similar, for each person to air what made them upset. I said that was dumb. If we were going to talk about our problems, it would be better if there was no time limit. She eventually agreed and said I could go first, asking me first when was the time that I completely lost my love in her. As I said before, it was never one action, but a grating feeling that got worse and worse until it got to this point, and I told her that, so she then asked when was the time I felt the most angry. I said it would take some time to think for me, and she said that was fine. After a few minutes something came to mind. I couldn't formulate the right words at first, but it eventually just started to come out. I told her the worst time was when I was first starting at my hospital. To keep it short, the tempo was brutal. It was constant work with little to no downtime, as I was constantly learning new things that school would have never taught me, while being expected to be able to handle it as a professional. It was without a doubt the most stressed I've ever been, and I feel like other RNs can relate here. That year hardened the way I think now. That hard work does pay off, if you have the drive and the passion. I told her I think that was when I started losing feelings the fastest, seeing her at home doing absolutely nothing. Coming home to no food made, to her not working a job, to her not learning anything, completely stuck to the internet with nothing to show for it. I said it made me even more upset when I had given suggestions for jobs with pretty easy schedules, or to find a new interest in school that would pan out better than last time, only to be rejected at my every attempt. I told her flat out that it disgusted me. She asked me why I didn't make this a bigger issue at the time, that I should have communicated this to her, but I said there's some things that shouldn't have to be said. I should _N_T_ have to remind her to wash her ass, eat, do something other than mindlessly scrolling on her phone for hours at a day, every day. I also told her that after coming home from the hospital during more stressful days, the last thing I wanted was to spend my time begging my girlfriend to do something productive, so I held my tongue and settled, as she was still nice and caring. I had no other reasons to end it, and so the resentment grew worse from then on. It was around here that I became more mean to my regret now, but I will still input it as I have everything else. I told her that when she dropped nursing, I was upset since I felt that she was more than capable of doing what I had done. But after spending more time in the relationship, and spending more time getting to know her, I knew that with the type of person she was there was no way she could have ever finished. Which is why I suggested easier and more laid-back jobs, L.S. demanding majors for school, shit even if she just cooked or found an interesting hobby at that point I would have appreciated it. Still, she chose to do nothing for years. It's just the type of person she was and why I felt done for her romantically over time. She asked me if I hated her, and I said I didn't know. I told her she was very loving and kind, but I hated how she handled her life to this point. That I felt no ill will towards her after airing everything out, but I also felt nothing else. I just felt done and ready to move on. Throughout this conversation we kept eye contact, and there were times it seems like she would break, but like she said she remained as calm as she could while I said what I had to say. I told her I was done and she could say her piece now, but she asked if we could continue the conversation later and locked herself in our room for the rest of the day. The next day we sat down again and finished the conversation. She told me that she thinks she's depressed, saying that she didn't feel sad before that night, just had no motivation of doing anything. I had a couple of messages telling me to ask her to get tested for ADHD, but when I started bringing it up she was very adamant that is not something she felt comfortable with. I knew she didn't like needles or going to the hospital in general, but her flat out refusing to get tested for disorders when I told her it was not at all like a regular hospital visit surprised me. She asked me if she was able to change in her behaviors, would I give her another chance? I said I didn't know, as I felt nothing right now and didn't know if her doing it would bring any feeling back. Especially since it took my breaking point to do so. She asked if there was any compromise, and I told her again, if in a month I felt like there was enough reason to stay together I would, but that there was no guarantee that my feelings would return. But I would match any effort she also put out. She was frustrated by my answer, but I said that's how it would be. She gave me a piece of paper to look at that she was working on last night that had a list of hobbies and interests she wanted to look into, the two major ones being photography and cooking again. She told me that she was looking into these while also showing me her phone, giving proof that she was putting in applications on Indeed and Glassdoor for some entry-level positions that she might get hired in. I told her if she was able to show enough passion or interest in these hobbies that she showed, I would not care about her working, just anything to improve herself. But if she didn't do anything at all, then it would be best to look for a new job to help her if she moves out. I've also been asked in private messages if I have any personal friends to talk to. There's 2 female coworkers I confide some information in given how many hours we work together at our hospital, and who I completely trust as in my opinion they are extremely grounded. They both said I would eventually get love bombed and this would all go back to how it once was, and that I needed to stand firm with moving on. They've very helpful friends who have even offered to let me stay over for a few nights, giving the reason that I would fall for her manipulation if I continued being anywhere near her, in their own words. But it didn't feel right since I'm still technically in a relationship, but I said I would consider it if the situation worsened. But again I find them grounded, so I always try to take their advice to heart. Despite numerous messages from you all privately or openly telling me that this will be a mistake, I want to make the attempt to give this one last try. Though I feel heavily closed and guarded and still feel indifferent with our current situation. But a lot of you have told me this can eventually change with enough work from both parties. I have also taken the advice of those saying to cut off sex, which was my intention from the start anyway, by continuing to sleep in the living room. But each day she has been sleeping on the floor right below me, even when I tell her I'd rather be alone with my thoughts, telling me this is something she would not accept. Now on to second story. Was shocked when my normally non-traditional Muslim boyfriend demanded I wear a headscarf for engagement, contradicting his original stance. My boyfriend, 28 male, is a Muslim. He usually is not very traditional. We don't live in a Muslim country. The other day he told me that as soon as we get engaged, I will need to wear a headscarf to cover my hair. I am very proud of my long wavy hair and a headscarf is absolutely out of the question, and he knows that. When we first met, he even told me that he doesn't like that tradition and that his girlfriend will never have to wear one. Now yesterday we had a real fight about it. His parents want us to get engaged, and engagement means the future bride has to cover her hair. It got a heated argument and I ended it with, I will wear the damn thing, as soon as you grow your foreskin back. He left without saying a word and went to his parents' place. Silence since then. Edit. 1. I will not wear a headscarf. If that means that the engagement isn't going to happen, then it will not happen. 2. I got downvoted for stating that I love him. Please keep in mind that the fight is less than 24 hours ago and I miss him. We had a very good relationship for 1,5 years and never fought before. We were planning on moving in together after getting engaged. 3. I will not convert to his religion. He knows that and his mother seemed fine with it. His father never said anything about it. I am Christian and will stay Christian. 4. People assume that his family is behind the headscarf idea. I am not sure about it, but it might be possible. If they are, they were good at hiding it, since they never said anything. 5. His family immigrated 3 generations ago into the mostly Christian country we live at. He himself never visited the country, Libya, his great-grandparents on his father's side came from. The family on his mother's side I don't know. We met at the animal shelter 2 years ago. He came from a 12-hour shift at his job and volunteered to bottle feed the kittens overnight. I was cleaning the cat area at that time. This was how we met. We were friends at first. After about 5 months we started dating. I knew he was Muslim and didn't want to date him, because of all the stereotypes, but he assured me that his girlfriend will never have to be traditional or modest or wear a headscarf. Even eating pork was no problem. We went to the beach together, I was wearing a bikini. No issues. I didn't care about his religion, since he didn't seem to care. I fell in love with his as a person, not him as a Muslim. Update 1. Alright, this is all complicated. I called my boyfriend, this morning. He didn't answer, his mother did. I told her that I would like him to come get his stuff from my place, since this relationship will not work out any longer. She told me that he came home yesterday, all quiet and sad. After his father asked him what happened, he told them what I said. Apparently this caused his father to giggle, before he told his son that my reaction has been obvious all along and that he isn't surprised at all. Turns out, the parents aren't the religious influence, it's the uncle on the father's side. Apparently he told my boyfriend that the guests at the engagement party, it's a big deal with his culture, with about 100 people, they come from everywhere and probably bring their whole household, the dog and the neighbors, will probably have a heart attack when they see a pale blonde fiancé without a headscarf. My boyfriend must have had a very deep conversation with this uncle about tradition and being the oldest son and all that stuff. Basically brainwashing. Long story short, he is my ex-boyfriend now. His other will come by tonight to get his stuff. Update 2. The future I had planned is gone, but I guess it was for the best. So here is what happened last night. My ex-boyfriend's mother came over to get his stuff. Some clothes, shoes, socks, books, his toothbrush and deodorant, stuff like that. She brought dinner, it was chicken with bulgur and this woman is a fantastic cook, and we sat down to talk. She told me some things I didn't know before. It's not the first time my ex messed up big time with a girl he wanted to marry. When he was 22, he was in a serious relationship with a very Western, very independent redhead. Pale skin like me, not a Muslim drop of blood in her. They got along great. But when it came to the question of engagement, the uncle took the boy aside and told him that this wasn't working if the girl wouldn't change her looks and her behavior. The relationship ended and my ex-boyfriend's father got loud. He told his son that he needs to decide what he wanted. If he wanted to live a Western lifestyle, it would be fine, but if he wanted to have a traditional wife, he needs to find someone that is raised that way. Fast forward 4,5 years and he started dating me. His father warned him not to mess it up again and that was the last time he said anything about it. His mother hoped he would be smarter this time. The uncle is a very traditional man. His daughters both wear headscarves since puberty, so does his wife. He prays, he follows the rules and since he has no son of his own, he kind of decided that my ex-boyfriend, the oldest son in his family, is like a son to him. About my almost mother-in-law, she wears a scarf herself. I asked her why she does and she was a little embarrassed. She told me that she wasn't always wearing one when she was younger. But she started to get gray hair after her second son was born in her late 20s and at some point she decided that a scarf is cheaper than the salon. So she covered her head on and off. She got used to it at some point and then didn't go back. Strange, I know. But I haven't been in her situation and it's not my right to judge her. After dinner we packed my ex's stuff in 2 big shopping bags and my ex-boyfriend's father came to help his wife carry the bags. He told me that he is sorry about his son's behavior. So, that's it. I am single now. Do I hope he comes to his senses and reaches out to me sometimes in the future? A little. Do I believe that will happen? No. At the moment we are no contact and I think I will leave it at that for now. I don't know what I will do if he comes back. This is all so new and my head spins from forget him to but I miss him to but he lied to why can't he just be normal again to call him, and so on. I tried to contact him yesterday, that was when his mother picked up the phone. He didn't want to talk to me and I respect that. At the moment I don't really know if I would want to talk to him. I wouldn't know what to talk about, I am heartbroken and feel betrayed and telling him that wouldn't make anything better and just result in a fight. Looking back I am glad his mother came to pick up his stuff. As much as I miss the good times with him, I think seeing him would have made this whole situation a lot harder for me. He wants the double whammy of a very diluted pick and choose Islam, her contributing half the money on top of the house and kids being her responsibility, but also wearing a headscarf and being subservient to him despite contributing way more than 50%. Also the traditional Muslim woman will have her entire family and community behind her if he does not act right, while the non-Muslim woman will have no Muslim family on her side that knows what's fair and isn't fair, which makes it more difficult to get him to act right towards her as a Muslim, as they would not really know what to expect or how to support her in that regard. Everything will be put away as that's Western values, they don't understand. I'm telling you it's like this.